If there's one rumor that can ignite the calmest of minds and spark riots in the streets of India, it's the news of religious conversion. But why? Why does something as personal as changing one's faith provoke such intense outrage in this country, while other, more disruptive changes go unquestioned? Welcome to Whispering Peepal, where we unravel the complex issues shaping India today. In this episode, we're diving into one of the most explosive and misunderstood controversies: religious conversion. We're about to uncover the kinds of conversions that happen right under your nose. Then, we'll dive into the real story behind religious conversions, what truly qualifies as a forced conversion, and who's actually behind these controversial practices. Trust me, it's probably not what you expect. So, without much ado, let's get started. Religious conversion has always been more than a change of belief. It was often brutal. During the Spanish Inquisition, Jews and Muslims were given a choice: convert to Christianity or face torture and death. In the Americas, indigenous populations were forcibly baptized by Spanish conquistadors. In Mughal-era India, Hindus were often coerced into converting to Islam through threats of violence, social pressure, or economic incentives. These aren't just stories from the past. Religious conversions, voluntary or forced, still shape societies today. So, what is religious conversion in its most basic sense? It's simply someone switching their faith and choosing a different belief system. But is that really so different from other types of change? We regularly undergo conversions in many aspects of life, whether it's changing our habits, switching to another service provider, or shifting our affiliations. Think about it. When someone switches their insurance policy, changes career paths, marries into a new family and adjusts their lifestyle, or votes for a different political party, aren't those also forms of conversion? And yet, curiously, only religious conversion seems to provoke such intense fury, especially here in India. So, what happens in a religious conversion? A priest might tell you how great his faith is, offering you salvation if you switch to his religion. Is it so different from a politician selling you his promise of showing the minority its place and asking for your vote? Think about it. Both offer you hope, whether in this world or the next. Let's break it down further. What actually happens when someone converts? Their object of worship changes. Yes, maybe their rituals shift. But does it cause financial or physical harm to others in society or the country? No! Converting to a different religion doesn't strip you of your home, empty your savings account, or negatively impact the financial or physical well-being of those around you. However, what about when someone converts politically? This is where things get trickier. When individuals or large groups shift their political allegiance, it can ripple through society with far-reaching consequences. If the new leader they follow is reckless, bigoted, or short-sighted, it wreaks havoc on the people. Imagine a leader who lacks foresight and who governs based on impulse rather than strategy. Policies become erratic, the economy can stumble, and social harmony might be strained to breaking point. The very fabric of the nation is at risk. Infrastructure, education, and healthcare systems go for a toss. In essence, political conversion is not just a change in allegiance. It's a gamble with the nation's future. But political conversion isn't the only kind that can leave us vulnerable. Enter what we might call consumer conversion, where promises of better deals or services lure us into changing brands, policies, or service providers, often at a steep cost. Now, imagine this. A sly insurance agent convinces you to switch your policy, promising you the world. It sounds great until disaster strikes. Suddenly, your new policy doesn't cover half of what your old one did, and you're left facing financial ruin. Or think about switching your mobile service provider, lured by better service, only to be bombarded with hidden fees and dropped calls. You're stuck paying more for less, all because of a consumer conversion. But where are the well-wishers now? The ones who would take to the streets if you had been lured by a priest. If you ask for their support, they'll simply tell you to get legal help. And if you think this kind of conversion is devastating, wait. There's an even more profound one we're about to dive into. It's a life-altering conversion. Yet it goes completely unquestioned and is deeply rooted in Indian society. I'm talking about the transformation that happens when a woman marries. In the patriarchal society of India, marriage is not just the union of two individuals, it's the union of two families. But for the woman, this union often means a complete transformation, a conversion of her lifestyle, her identity, and even her very sense of self. In a traditional arranged marriage, the woman doesn't just join her husband, she joins his entire family. In this, she moves into her husband's home and lives with his parents, who become her new parents. Her daily routine changes overnight. She adapts to the customs and practices of her new family, often abandoning her own. Her clothing changes. She might start wearing saris if she didn't before, or begin covering her head as per her in-laws' customs. Even her food habits might change, adjusting to the dietary preferences of her new household, her entire lifestyle, down to the time she wakes up, the way she speaks, and the festivals she celebrates undergoes a transformation. Just imagine the level of conversion this entails, which includes having new parents. And it's almost a forced conversion, as marriages in India are predominantly arranged by parents. A new life is thrust on the woman, who is expected to conform to the norms and expectations of her husband's family. This is a conversion of identity more profound than any religious conversion. Yet it is celebrated, seen as natural, a fundamental part of the fabric of Indian society. But if you think marital conversion could never spark any outrage, you couldn't be more mistaken. Tweak the situation slightly. The same woman marries a man from another faith and changes her religion. Suddenly, all hell breaks loose. Riots erupt in the streets. The same society that welcomes a woman's transformation through marriage can't handle her choosing a new object of worship. The hypocrisy is glaring. Now let's take a step back. Why are we so fiercely protective of a religion we didn't even choose? We are born into our faith by circumstance, not choice. So why the attachment? Why the anger when someone chooses to step away from something they didn't consciously choose in the first place? If we trace far enough back, what even is our original religion? Muslims were once pagans, and Hindus followed animistic totemic practices. Further back, we evolved from primates, and before that, we were amphibians. Religion, in the grand scheme of history, is a relatively recent phenomenon. So, when people get defensive about protecting someone's original faith, what are they really defending? Now, are you ready to face the uncomfortable truth? The anger surrounding religious conversions isn't really about protecting faith. It's about protecting power. The power that religion wields over communities and the control that it exerts on political and social dynamics. It's about the deeply rooted sense of identity that comes with it. Upper caste Hindus have historically viewed lower caste individuals, or Dalits, as their social subordinates, destined to serve them. This power dynamic manifests in violence and discrimination, often with devastating results. Take the Karlanji massacre of 2006. where an entire Dalit family was tortured and murdered by upper caste villagers. Or the Hathras rape and murder case in 2020, where a young Dalit woman was brutally assaulted by upper caste men. These are not isolated incidents. Dalit communities have suffered countless atrocities for daring to defy the caste hierarchy. When these oppressed individuals convert to Christianity or Islam, the upper castes are furious. Suddenly, they're the self-appointed defenders of the original religion. They cry foul, accusing Christian priests of forced conversions, sometimes even resorting to violence, like in the case of Graham Staines, a Christian missionary who was burned alive along with his children in Orissa in 1999. The irony is palpable. Where is this outrage when a woman is tortured for dowry, or when a senior citizen is duped by an insurance agent? The outrage against conversion stems from more than just religious sentiment. In India, a person's identity is never purely individualistic. It's deeply intertwined with their religious community. Religion is the glue that binds people together, shaping festivals, rituals, and daily life. So when someone converts, it's not viewed as a personal decision. It's seen as a tear in the social fabric. People are deeply invested in each other's lives, and when someone leaves the religious fold, the whole community feels the impact. That's why it's seen as such a disruption. The upper castes' resentment becomes clear when they derisively label new Christian converts as rice bags, implying that they switched religions for a bag of rice. After all, it's not just about losing social subordinates. It's about losing the political power that has kept them in control for so long. Once converted, these individuals are less likely to vote for right-wing parties, which are dominated by upper caste Hindus. And that's where the true fear lies: losing control over a crucial political vote bank. In India, elections are won or lost based on religious and caste-based vote banks. Right-wing Hindu parties, particularly the BJP, rely heavily on the consolidated Hindu vote. This fear of losing power often leads to drastic actions. Though India has laws against forced conversions, many are unwilling to wait for the legal process to unfold. Instead, they take matters into their own hands, justifying violence or even murder in the name of protecting their religion. But what's really going on behind these conversions? Is it just a matter of personal belief? Or is there more at play? The truth is, in some cases, Christian missionaries, especially in tribal areas, offer financial incentives to encourage conversions. Think of it like an insurance salesman pitching a new plan. Except, this time, it's for your soul. And yes, a lot of people fall for it. But can you blame them? These converts aren't just seeking a new religion. They're seeking dignity and equality. After a lifetime of enduring untouchability and discrimination, wouldn't you be tempted to embrace any faith that promises a better life? This is exactly why, in 1956, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar led over 500,000 Dalits in a mass conversion to Buddhism. So how do the upper castes respond to these conversions? Do they stand by and watch quietly? Absolutely not. They fight back, fiercely. Enter Ghar Wapasi, meaning homecoming, a movement that seeks to bring people back to Hinduism. But make no mistake, this isn't just about religious homecoming. It's a strategic push to reassert control. Their core intention is to preserve the status quo, where caste hierarchies remain unchallenged and the balance of power stays firmly in their grip. And boy, do you think Ghar Wapasi is voluntary or peaceful? Far from it. The narrative of returning to the fold often comes with immense social, economic, and even physical pressure. Take the Agra Ghar Wapasi incident of 2014, where around 50 Muslim families were reportedly reconverted to Hinduism. These families, mostly impoverished and illiterate, were lured under the pretense of receiving government benefits, including ration cards and financial aid. They were led to believe that their conversion would improve their social standing and economic conditions. It was only after the ceremony, where they were made to perform Hindu rituals, that they realized they had been tricked into reconverting. The local and national media outcry that followed highlighted how coercion was disguised as a charitable act. Then there's the Kerala Ghar Wapasi incident of 2015, where several Christian families were coerced into converting back to Hinduism. These families, belonging to Dalit and tribal communities, were threatened with social ostracism if they didn't comply. They were told that they would be cut off from community resources, denied access to common lands, and even refused entry into their own homes if they didn't return to Hinduism. The pressure was so intense that many of these families felt they had no choice but to comply. Does this sound familiar? Forced conversion? Anyone? And if this doesn't ring loud enough, take a look at this.
सारी ईसा मसीह की किताबें फोटो बाइबिल सब मैंने जमा कर दी है। अगर इसके बाद मेरे घर से कुछ भी बरामद होता है तो तेज बोलो माँ से तभी आवाज खोल देंगे तुम्हारी माँ तेज होता है तो मेरी जिम्मेदारी है आज से हिंदू धर्म का मैं पूरी रीति रिवाज के साथ पालन करूंगा और पूरी श्रद्धा के साथ हिंदू धर्म का मरने तक निर्वहन करूंगा। जय हिंद जय भारत जय हिंदुत्व। चल वाला नहीं सर नहीं। अच्छा इसका बनाओ इसका अरे बड़ा आदमी हमारा था बड़ा आदमी नहीं पढ़ा वहाँ नहीं पढ़े हो तो ही बोल रहे साले अभी मुसलमानों से लड़ रहे हैं इसके बाद ईसाई बन रहे हो तुम। इसका देते हुए पूरा वीडियो बनना चाहिए। इधर देखो चलो ऑन करो वीडियो। हो गया तो बोलो कैमरे पे सारी फोटो बोलो ना बोलो मैं बोल रहा हूँ पीछे बोलो। और मेरे घर से कुछ भी ईसा मसीह का अगर बरामद हुआ तो मेरी जिम्मेदारी ठीक हालेलुया जो तब बोलते थे ना हालेलुया मार चलो।
Isn't it fascinating? The very people who scream about forced conversions are often the ones actively engaging in them. They're the same people who force others to chant Jai Shri Ram in public or face violence.
बोलो जय श्री राम जय श्री राम बोलो जय श्री राम जय श्री राम और बोलो जय श्री राम जय श्री राम जय श्री राम बोलो जय श्री राम जय श्री राम।
And yet, they cheer on these actions, claiming it's about preserving cultural identity. But wait, what about the conversions they call forced? Are they really forced in any sense? Or are people simply being lured? Have a look at this clip.
खुदा आज आपके अपने दास और दासी के जरिए से इस बड़ी सभा में आपके जीवन में ये सब कार्य करेगा। आपके कष्ट खत्म होंगे, दुख खत्म होंगे, परमेश्वर आपकी जिंदगियों को बहाल करेगा, सब बीमारियां जाती रहेंगी, बड़ा आनंद खुदा आपका लाइफ में उठेलेगा और आप आशीषों को ग्रहण करेंगे। चर्च थैंक यू जीसस बोलते हुए ऊंची आवाज के साथ हालेलुया बोले सब जन।
हालेलुया हालेलुया।
Do you see any force or coercion here? When someone is lured into converting through incentives, whether it's money, social support, or other benefits, can we really call that forced conversion? If a person voluntarily chooses to accept an offer in exchange for converting, isn't that more of a transaction, a deal, rather than coercion? And guess what? Christianity and Islam aren't the only religions using this approach. Hindu organizations like ISKCON do the same in broad daylight, actively seeking converts without sparking the same paranoid outrage.
हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी भगवत गीता लीजिए। हरे कृष्णा भगवत गीता लीजिए। हरे कृष्णा।
Yet, no one bats an eye when they're doing it. That's the hypocrisy. Conversion to Hinduism is celebrated, but conversion away from it is treated like treason. So, in the end, conversions aren't just about switching religions. They come in forms we often overlook. And what about forced conversions? The truth is, they are often about survival, opportunity, or escape from oppression. Thanks for joining us on this exploration of a topic that's both complex and controversial. If this video opened your eyes to new perspectives, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Whispering Peepal. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. What do you think defines a forced conversion? And how do power and control shape this issue? See you in our next video.